Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser-scanned replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's the one circuit in the world which just makes every single person who looks at it, who drives at it, who has any affiliation with racing, it makes them just have that big wide grin, that smile that everybody seems to enjoy. This track, which has been one of the pinnacles of motorsport for over 70 years, is one which you sit down and say, this is the marquee. This is a bucket list race that many drivers want to win. They don't build them like this one anymore. And for those at the Temple of Speed searching for pace, Monza is the call here in Lombardia. We are just 5 clicks out from the city of Milan, and we are getting ready for some amazing sim racing action today. My name's Jake Sperry, Caitlin Penny alongside me for the 16th round of the iRacing Grand Prix Tour, and we take ourselves to a circuit, Caitlin, that doesn't need an introduction even though that we've given one. This is a track that is completely unique from what is everything that is currently built.
Absolutely, Jake. They call it the Temple of Speed for a reason. It's quite a stop-start circuit with a lot of heavy chicanes and tight turns, but those are separated by extremely long straights where you can really build up the speed, and so the average speed kind of looks rather offset as a result of that. There you see the lovely Monza Park in the middle of Lombardia in Italy. You can see the old oval banking that's no longer used, all nicely lit up in red. It is still there though. I'm very glad that they have preserved it as well as they have. And then of course you have the actual circuit that we're going to be using today, marked in white, all 11 corners of it, from the Ritafiglio up to the Variante del Roggia, Lesmo, Ascari and Parabolica, to complete a full lap of the Temple of Speed.
All those bits in red are different layouts you can find on iRacing. So there are versions where you skip the Retafiglio, and there are versions where the Della Roggia has a very quick cut through that runs on forward. I've even seen that run in the eNASCAR series once upon a time. So we are going to get some amazing high-speed action. Over 70% of the time you're at full throttle around this track, and this is going to be one of the quickest 307 kilometers that you will see in your life. A minimum of 2 tyre compounds to be used here, Caitlin. DRS active from the start of lap 3. How will these drivers be so crucially needing to stay in range today at the most draft-dependent track of the season?
Yeah, you have a real problem here with DRS drafting, where basically you have to be able to get past people on the straights, because if you can't, you're going to be stuck behind them for basically the entirety of the race. You end up with a situation where you have a really fast car at the front of a train, and no one can quite catch up enough through the corners. It takes quite something to pass someone in the corners, and then of course they're still stuck behind on the straights because clearly this car has the pace to hold them off. So you do end up with chains of maybe 10 plus cars forming, especially at the start of these races, and then that can affect things heading into the pit window as well.
Let's talk championship. Jacob Reed on a stretch of 7 consecutive victories. His monstrous drive last time out at Zandvoort 1 week ago moves him 52 points clear on top of the SimSpeed Championship. It is, of course, 26 times 2, so he's exactly 2 races clear at the top of Jordan Gronkowski. You've then got Eduardo Radice there in third as everyone drops down through the order. We'll run through the SimSpeed top 10, which was there. Volta Lux, Darren Parker, Connor Pooler, Nick Burke, Florian Kammeyer, Anthony Cat, and Jorge Martinez, the top 10. On your iRacing side, it's a strong split today, but Jacob Reed is starting to pull away there as well. Radice finding himself in third with Anthony Cat fourth, Walter Lux up in fifth with Edward Apari. Ari's consistency putting him in sixth ahead of George van Rensburg, Kent Nielsen, Paul O'Regan, and Nick Burke finding himself as the final driver inside of that top 10. But the question we've been asking, Caitlin, for the longest while, how do you stop Jacob Reed when he's on this sort of form?
Yeah, he's absolutely dominant. He's won the last 7 races in a row. And of course, last time out, won from 14th on the grid and made it look absolutely effortless in the end, winning by a matter of double-digit seconds. It was very, very impressive. And there was absolutely nothing that anyone could seem to do to stop him. We do have some real contenders here today who can at least try. Of course, the famous Emil Bernstorff is back after unfortunately retiring due to getting the fuel wrong last time out. And of course we have the classics such as Jordan Gronkowski and Walter Lux.
Well, let's take a look at our grid. Jacob Reed put the car on pole, 120.937. It's Emil Bernstorff who will be alongside for company on that front row. Anthony Cat, who's always on the alternative strategy, he'll start from third. And Florian Kammeyer with a great qualifying will go from fourth position. Row 3 houses Connor Pooler. It's nice to see him back. He's got George van Rensburg, the South African, alongside for company. Row 4 will house Edward Apari Ari. Alexei Shalobanov will be alongside him in 8th. 9th belongs to Volta Lux, and Adam Webb will start this one from 10th. Row 6 will have a good friend of Adam Webb's, that's Kent Nielsen in 11th. Jason Green, who has made every start of this series for the last 2 years, goes from that 12th place. Paul O'Regan will start with Thomas Hinds, who got his time in late in the session to jump up to 14th position, with Marcel Ropak in 15th, making his first start of the season, and Nick Burke back there in 16th. Row 9, big shock. Victor Awad not the shock in 17th. Jordan Gronkowski not finding his second lap time is. He'll have to go from 18th, and he's got a long road here to try and keep this championship afloat. Last time put in was Ray Lombardi. The one driver who didn't set a time today was Oshman Ajlan Set, who will go from the back in 20th position, looking for a race set to go out there and make some work pay. It's a long run down to turn number 1 and 2, the Retafilo, and it's also the most treacherous out there of all the starts this season. Take a look at the tyre lives, because they will be important here. Drivers will be thinking about what do they go on, and there is a huge mix of strategy. Some on soft, some on mediums. Jacob Reed is starting this one on the hard compound tyre here today, so a lot of drivers trying to work out what's their best way to go forward. 53 laps then here today from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Green flag in the air, and let's get ourselves racing. Bogged down on the second phase of acceleration by Emil Bernstorff. Anthony Cat follows in suit. That allows Connor Pooler with a great start now to try and make some moves as they now rush into the Retafilo for the first time. 2 by 2 they go through, and everyone trying to avoid dramas then on as they go through. One car off the road in the background. It looks like it's one of the orange cars there. That's Adam Webb, but everybody has tiptoed through without trouble.
Is Anthony Cat now looking all over Emil Bernstorff? I was fascinated to see the top 3 take tyres in reverse softness order, with Reed on hard, Bernstorff on medium, and Cat on soft. That's all a little tight on the exit there. Looks like Connor Pooler's going to get involved as well. And Eduardo Apari Ari comes through in 5th position. Victor Awad's now dropping to the back. I think we may have had our first retirement.
Yeah, I think we have, and Victor Awad is not going to be too pleased. They rush up now through the Seraglio and try and make this move. Remember, they don't have the DRS up until lap 3. Awad just a self-spin, but Cat sweeping around the outside. Can he keep it on terra firma?
Oh.
Yes. No, he's gone. Anthony Cat's gone. He's in the wall. He's out.
just drops it by himself. That's tragic stuff from Anthony Cat, who retires on the first lap of the race through completely his own doing, and after such an impressive overtake as well. Now look at, we've got Florian Kammer going right around the outside of Apariari, but kind of being hung out to dry and having to drop back. Now we head down the long start-finish straight for the first time in its entirety, down towards turn 1, side by side for second place now. Connor Pooler looks as if he's going to get it. He's now the top driver on soft tyres, and he's in second place, and that's a big dive from Apariari, but they get through.
3 seconds for Jacob Reed in the opening lap, just because of how hard Emil Bernstorff had to fight there. Pariari running a little bit wide, allows Florian Kammeyer back through for position, but Jacob Reed with a lovely gap you can see there at the front. Look at them all now line up for the Della Roggia, trying to find those moves. Kammeyer having to throw a half block into the chicane. Alexei Shalobanov, the Kazakh driver, behind, hoping to try and find a way through. And then there's George Van Rensburg and Paul O'Regan and Volta Lux. Good starts up through the field. Gronkowski up 5 places already, and he'll get another one out there at the moment as we'll take a look at the SimSpeed replay. This is what happened to Victor Awad on the opening lap.
Yeah, so I've seen there's grass flying at the back, but I think it's on the exit of this. Oh, there he goes, into the barriers, and another hit into the tyre wall there. So there's our first retirement of the day. The second one, of course, was Anthony Cat, who went off here 1 lap ago. One of the fastest corners on the track, does lend itself to big accidents. But now we look at, well, basically the whole field still as one heading into the Parabolica Michele Alboreto. Here's a replay. We're on board, I think, with Anthony Cat, the unfortunate Anthony Cat, who's going to use up all of his 9 lives in one go here, going round the outside, running off the road, and as he rejoins, it's almost like the right-hand side of his car stepped down and lost grip, and then he slammed into the barriers.
That's what happens when you are on that AstroTurf. He tried to play chicken with Emil Bernstorff and found out pretty quickly. Ken Nielsen round the outside of Volta Lux for position. Wonderfully done. Fastest lap bonus point in the back pocket of Connor Pooler for the time being. He will get himself an extra championship point if he can hold on to that between now and the end of this race. All in purple is Thomas Hinz. He's trying to think of a way through on the Austrian Volta Lux. This for 10th position on the road. Lux on the hard compound of tyre, so getting that out of the way early here to try and run long into this race to get a fresher set of tyres towards the end, which he can attack with. Behind Thomas Hinz, though, keep an eye out. That's Jordan Gronkowski, who will be looking to try and use his soft tyres early to jump up through. The DRS giving everybody the same advantage. A little bit off the road in front of him goes Volta Lux, and this is going to be a perfect setup along the Aposta here, now leading towards Michele Alboreto's corner, and Lux, you can see nothing he can do. Look at Hinzy go.
Up the inside goes the Australian. Wider goes Walter Lux, and over the AstroTurf on the outside. This is going to allow Jordan Gronkowski to make up a place on his recovery drive. He'll have the DRS now. It's been active since lap 3. I'm about to sneeze, sorry.
Yep, so this is going to be where you got to find that move, and Gronk picks it off then and jumps up to 11th position with that pass. A gain of 7 for him over the course of this race, so a wonderful pass for him to get through in these early goings. Gap being clawed down at the front, now down to 1.9 seconds as Connor Pooler took 6/10 out of Jacob Reed, who is on the hardest set of tyres at this moment. Emil Bernstorff trying to shadow, but he's dropped now to 1.2, and Florian Kammeyer also on the mediums with Alexei Shalobanov is going to be an interesting case. Now, there's 2 ways, Caitlin, they can go on those mediums. They can go to a hard tyre and take it to the end of the race, or they can try a 2-stop and go medium, soft, soft.
Yeah, our broadcaster Jay Kennedy was saying just before the start of this one that any feasible strategy is absolutely possible, and we're probably going to see quite a mix today. We already have, with drivers starting on the softs, mediums and hards. I'm interested in how Connor Pooler is going to play it as well, going from those softs. Jay was saying that pretty much everyone should use hards at some point, but of course there's no guarantee that that will be the case. They just have to use 2 different compounds of dry weather tyre. So if you start on softs, you've got to use medium or hard. And for Connor Pooler, yes, he lost about 2.5 seconds to Jacob Reed on the first lap of the race. And that was because of the fight between Bernstorff and Cat. But when they both dropped by the wayside and Pula was able to get through into P2, he was able to start reeling in that gap again. It's down to 1.4 seconds now. Pula really charging for that lead.
Another move by Jordan Gronkowski, and this time it will put him inside the top 10. Thomas Hinds, nothing he can do. The driver second overall in the championship, and he is going to need an absolute charge. Is Jordan Gronkowski today? He is desperate for it. There is Florian Kammeier, ever present right now as he sits behind Emil Bernstorff right now. Christoph Klinkmann, his good friend and spotter in his ears at the moment. The only other driver with a spotter is Conor Pula. He's got Tobias Saal in his ears. Ever as quick as a driver as Conor Pula is, he tucks right up underneath here on the Seraglio and through now into the Ascari chicane. Not wanting to make that move just yet, but wanting to find the right angle to attack. And that's going to be the key, because the entire train stacks up not behind Pula but behind Emil Bernstorff at this moment, and you could say it goes 5 back at the moment to Paul O'Regan.
It does indeed. Paul O'Regan running in 8th position, just ahead of Kent Nielsen, and there's a row of 5 cars on soft tyres at that point in the field. So you're seeing that DRS train that I'm talking about, the DRS open on the back of the cars, and this is Florian Kammeier here, going for a move on Emil Bernstorff, forced to the outside. Drive. Does get a good drive. I think he should get this here, and there's a chance that the driver behind might be able to follow him through here.
Oh, he's going to try and get him back around the outside of Curva Grande, the Biasino. And now he's going to look for the inside line. Brilliant battling between Kammeier and Bernstorff. Bernstorff still trying to hold around the outside. He gets hung out a little bit. Through goes Alexei Sholobanov, and here goes George van Rensburg at the first of the 2 Lesmo corners. And he's going to get one, potentially. Needs to confirm it at a second, and does.
Yeah, Bernstorff got driven right off his rhythm there, and I think maybe put up too much of a fight. Put himself right off the line, and that's really good opportunistic driving from not just Kammeier, but especially Sholobanov and Van Rensburg, who came through as an afterthought, basically. Now you're seeing that Pula has caught Jacob Reed over that last lap. He's got himself back into DRS range, and now within, well, basically it's going to be about half a second as they cross the line. This could be an actual opportunity for Jacob Reed to take the lead in the early stages of this race. Of course, it's not going to mean that much in the long run. It does mean he'll get track position, but Reed will be able to run longer, so should still take the lead back on the first pit stop. But for the time being, wouldn't it be good for Conor Pula to lead the race?
Well, he was harvesting the battery there, only had 5 kilometers an hour of a boost. It's in the background. That is, again, Jordan Gronkowski making the move. He's through now on Kent Nielsen, and he's picked up another one out on track. So that puts him up to 9th place in this one. But we focus with your leading duo right now. Jacob Reed on the hards, Conor Pula on the softs. And Pula, if he takes the race lead here, will be very happy. Gronkowski also with the fastest lap check mark, so an extra point in his back pocket that he will want to use between now and the end of this season, this all-important run-in, as this does mark the end of the tracks that pretty much fall right in line. We've had a massive long stint where we follow the F1 calendar. Sometimes we're not able to do that, so it's Motorland Aragon. Next time we're with you in 2 weeks. Take a little look, though, at George van Rensburg. He's got his eyes set on Florian Kammeier. Alexei Sholobanov, by the way, has moved himself up into 3rd position. Great movement by the Kazakh driver, who started 8th position on the grid and now finds himself P3.
Yeah, this is very impressive from Sholobanov, who we haven't seen in a little while in this championship. Equally as impressive, Conor Pula. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move on Jacob Reed this time around. He's reached that buffer where he can follow, but he can't quite pass. And you mentioned that he might be harvesting some battery life as well. That is a possibility. So Reed leads, followed by Pula, Sholobanov, Kammeier, and Van Rensburg in these early stages of the race. And here is Jordan Gronkowski, the mover of the first part of this race, as he was anticipated to be, of course, well out of position due to making a mistake in qualifying or something happening that we weren't able to catch. And as a result of that, Jordan Gronkowski has only made his way up into 9th position so far. A little over rotation in the chicane that time, but he gathers it up and he's chasing Paul O'Regan.
Yeah, no surprises about having struggles here. Track temperature 40 degrees right now at in-sim time coming up to 2:30. Not a massive amount of wind to talk about here today. So Gronk's got work to do in what is Scuderia Red. I think you could call that his colour at the moment, trying to chase on down. And now you've got the eyes, which are very firmly set at this moment there. We saw George van Rensburg just in front trying to make his progress. And there is Nick Burke, who we haven't seen in a little while, now trying to attack with Thomas Hinz. This for 11th and 12th.
Yeah, Nick Burke always reminds me of the Golf livery that McLaren ran at Monaco a few years ago. I think that's probably his intention with the livery he's put on that car. A very deep purple for Thomas Hinz. That's one of my favourite colours. I love how that car looks. And it looks as if Nick Burke is... Well, he's got the DRS open and he's got the slipstream. Down towards turn 1 we go, takes a look to the inside. The trees unhelpfully get in the way, but he does manage to get through, I think. There he goes. So Nick Burke there up into 11th place as we talk. And that is after 9 laps of the race. But we're going to be seeing plenty of this swapping and changing in the early stages. It'll be the pit window that really tells us what the order is.
I'll tell you what, we'll tell you something. Look at that gap at the front. It's now gone out over 1 second here. Jacob Reed with fight back. The tyres are starting to go for Konopula. Oh, Alexei, go careful through the second Lesmo, my friend. This brings Florian Kammerer straight up the hill under the old banking here up to Ascari and makes the pass that puts him back into P3. Florian Kammerer with a comfortable pass to get the move done. George van Rensburg unable to capitalise on that one momentary mistake, but it's moments like that which brings things into perspective. You are 1 corner away at all times in this race from trouble.
So the German up to 3rd position in Italy as he chases down Konopula and Jacob Reed up ahead. There you see what I'm talking about. With the DRS chain, you've got a whole snake of cars going down the start-finish straight. And you'll notice every time there's a slight movement, everyone behind will snake in the same direction just to get the maximum out of that aerodynamic benefit that you get from the slipstream. There's Jordan Gronkowski, who's just exited the chicane behind them. He's gaining as well in 9th position as it stands. And there's about 6 or 7 cars here, basically all together, avoiding those massive curbs in the Variante del Roggia, one of the silliest sections, of course, for curb usage. There's always the possibility of an accident through there if you're not wary. These drivers doing it well though, and here's another DRS zone on the back straight.
Yep, so the chance then to attack up the hill into Ascari, make another overtaking opportunity happen, and no dice from any of these drivers in this train to try and break away and find that pass that they also duly think that they can manage. So again right now as this group sits 7 seconds off your race leader Jacob Reed, who's out there on the hard compound tyre and pulling away from Konopula now to the tune of 2 seconds in this race. You've now got the thought on who wants to do what. Konopula, we're talking about it, 15 laps was the earliest we could expect. We were thinking the soft runners to dive into the pits. Now, if that's anything to show by at Konopula's pace here, I think he'd be looking slightly earlier. Look at him, 1, 2, 3, all stacking up behind Florian Kammerer. And if you told Florian a year ago, Caitlin, that he'd be in this position, 3rd in this race, holding back some incredible drivers, including Jordan Gronkowski and Emil Bernstorff, he'd bite your hand off.
He would indeed. We're still in the very early stages of the race, of course, but it has been a very good start for Florian Kammerer. Talking of starts, at the start of this stint, the soft tyres would have been a lot better than they are right now. Konopula is losing time to the tune of about 5 or 6 tenths per lap now from Jacob Reed. So that does show you that the soft tyres are probably past their peak. And it's interesting how quickly that's happened, because it shows you what a good job Jacob Reed has done out in front on the hard tyres. That the soft tyre runners had this 10-lap window to work with where they had to push and they had to be aggressive, and yet no one could get him, even on those fully hard tyres. So just you wait and see what Jacob Reed does for the rest of this race. I think that this is going to be a textbook performance, but Conapola, Florian Camo, etc. would love to prove me wrong and to show me what they can do.
Keep an eye on
Down the
Gronk.
straight we go again.
Well, Van Rensburg's looking, but so too's Gronk. Down the inside, he'll get on Paul O'Regan, and he snipes that place away from him. Absolutely ruthless stuff by Jordan Gronkowski. He isolates and separates, and that's the only way he's going to make these places.
Yep, absolutely. Jordan Gronkowski up into 8th position now. His next target is Edward Apari-Ari in 7th position. The gap between the top two on that last lap, it once again came out by 0.6 of a second, so still Jacob Reed pulls away from Pula. Kamar is 3rd, Shalobanov 4th, then Van Rensburg, Bernstorff, who has not had a good start to the race, Apari-Ari, and then Gronkowski, who has had a good start to the race, but he will still feel aggrieved by it, because if he hadn't had that qualifying error, then who knows what could have happened. There's a little move going on in the background there, but we're taking a look at a replay of something, and this will be Jordan Gronkowski's move on Kent Nielsen.
Well, it would be his move actually on Paul O'Regan, and this is how he did so. Absolutely perfect on the slipstream, straight on through, down the inside, and he just bullies his way through the opening corner there. Very lucky not to get a slowdown penalty for that. And George Van Rensburg, oh, pit, look at that. Look how aggressive into the pits there. Jordan Gronkowski, wait, he's got a black flag. He's got a black flag for speeding.
Oh, goodness. Okay, well, there's 3 drivers into the pits together. So are you saying Gronkowski's
He's got
on the
damage
way
as
into
well.
the pit?
He's got damage on his suspension. He's going to be out.
Good Lord, what's happened here? Well, we're going to
Well,
see a
watch
replay.
this. He's going to make the late call, dives into the pit, locks it up, and he hits the attenuator. He's out.
He was not expecting, was that Florian Camo? He was not expecting Van Rensburg to be going that slowly on the entrance to the pit lane. That's not the fault of Van Rensburg. He can dictate the pace into there. It is part of the racetrack. But Gronkowski there obviously wanted to go a bit more aggressively. And is that a problem for Emil Bernstorff? Why is Bernstorff
It's a
going
massive
so slowly?
slowdown. It's a massive slowdown. He cut the chicane, couldn't cut it properly, and I think he's had to serve like 4 seconds worth of slowdown penalty there. A massive moment. Lap 13 is unlucky for some, and Emil Bernstorff on the brakes just can't get it slowed down, and as he can't get it woed away, he's then got to sit at 2nd gear, serving the slowdown penalty to get back up to speed again. This race has been torn apart here in the middle. Kent Nielsen now will be the one looking to try and get a place next on Emil Bernstorff, and that would be for 6th position. But my word, do we have something on at the moment, and it's all sunshine and daisies for Jacob Reed at the front as in comes Edward Apari-Ari.
It is indeed. Reed now has a lead of nearly 4 seconds as Apari-Ari pits. Well done to John Gronkowski actually for choosing to hit the wall rather than to hit George Van Rensburg on the way into the pits. He very easily could have done, and I think he did the sporting thing. But that is to say, if the contact zone would still have been active there, I don't know where the invulnerability comes into play in the pit lane. But whatever the case, Van Rensburg is still in the race as a result of that. There's Edward Apari-Ari coming up just behind the South African.
Well, there you go. You take a look at where they've come out and what they've come out on. It's the hard compound tyre for George Van Rensburg. It's the hard compound tyre for Edward Apari-Ari out there. So they are looking to go long on this stint. So soft hard very much looks like the strategy game that they are going to be playing. There is Connor Pula in 2nd position. He's now dropped back to 5 seconds now in this group here, away from Jacob Reed, and surely he's got to be thinking about a pit stop. No, he won't even think about it on lap 14, so I think it's rather telling at this moment what we are seeing out there at the moment from these drivers. How much struggle are we seeing a few of these drivers in? The answer is a lot of struggle out there, and these drivers know how important it is to stay in range. Now here goes Volta Lux, who'd been quiet, dropping back in the early stint. He'll get back through now on Thomas Hinds, and that will put him back into 8th position. Walks into today the Sim Speed Championship 4th overall right now. He's down by about 50 points on Eduardo Radice, and he's got 8 races or so to try and pull those points back. And he'll be thinking about, well, how can I nickel and dime myself to 3rd overall in this championship?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Conor Paula wasn't one of the first people to pit. I think that shows that he knows his race is not with Jacob Reed at this point in time. And I guess the question now is he staying out with the hope that when he puts on his hard tyres, they can take him right to the end of the race? But he is definitely losing some time up there, and in a few laps' time, may even come under pressure from Florian Kammerer. We're looking back in the pack, Nick Burke on the back of Kent Nielsen. And you're right when you say a lot of the drivers who have pitted already have come out on hard tyres, showing that those are the tyres to be on at this time, as Jay said they might be before this race. I'm expecting a similar thing to happen when Conor Paula comes in, and he does come in now.
Yep, so he's dived into the pits. It's a very early pit marker here around Monza. You've got to be really switched on to where that mark is. He locked up both fronts coming into the pits, and he hits his box, gets up onto the jacks, drops himself off the jacks. 3.9 seconds to stop, and hard compounds on for Conor Paula as he looks to get away and back on to racing once more. He will come out just behind Jason Green out there at this moment, and crucially with George Van Rensburg not a million miles behind him. So there is certainly still something to race for in this one. He's got to use those hard tyres, try and chase up. Now we'll take a look here at the SimSpeed replay. This will give you an indication of Nick Burke here in towards the opening section of track against Thomas Hinds on the, sorry, no, that's going to be Kent Nielsen on the left-hand side, straight down the inside, easy as you like. The Golf colours there, finding itself quite nice. He could have been in the golf course on the other side, having a nice round of 18.
Indeed, well done, Jake. Anthony Cat has popped into the YouTube chat to let us know that hard tyres can do basically the whole race at about the same pace. So we're expecting hard tyres to be the ones to go for, and yeah, there is a good chance that if that is the case, then one-stop strategies all around for the drivers who have pitted already. And it's a shame to see Anthony out of the race already, but at least we have a kind of unofficial informant in the YouTube chat now. I've also seen Reynaldo Augusto now saying Jordan Gronkowski needs to dive into the pits, and then his next message was, oh no. I think that tells you a story. But anyway, hello Reynaldo, hello Anthony, and thank you for dropping into the YouTube chat to keep us up to date on what's going on.
Lap 17 here of 53 around this Italian Grand Prix here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. We focus here in the middle of this group. This is Nick Burke in 5th position on the medium tyres. Kent Nielsen's still out there on his softs, by the way, so too is Adam Webb. So I think that those two drivers have something interesting going on here, Caitlin. Will they be trying to stretch out their soft tyres so they can unlock a medium to the end of the race?
Potentially, although from what I've heard about the hard tyres so far, they're probably not that much slower than the medium, and they probably will be worth it in the long run. So I'm surprised they're not just settling for the hard tyres. Here's Walter Lux into the chicane, chasing Kent Nielsen and Nick Burke. That chicane's always an absolute pain when you've got a car ahead of you. You want to be able to just flick the car in, but the turbulent air makes it difficult to do so. Here's the Parabolica, seeming quite slippery here in real life this weekend. Several cars have gone off here in practice for the real life Formula 1 Grand Prix, including the safety car, but that looked like a brake failure to me rather than slippery surface issues. But yep, everyone getting through cleanly this time around, and Lux still chasing down Kent Nielsen.
Yeah, still trying to find that way through. Nick Burke, the cork in the bottle at the moment in this group. Keep an eye out 2nd and 3rd though, because Florian Kammerer here has Alexei Sholobanov for company once again. So the Kazakh driver in the number 9 machine is starting to close back down Florian Kammerer, who is there in 2nd. And this is going to be the concern when you are a driver. It's not just about how you attack at the start of a stint, it's how you're able to keep that pace over the course and towards the end of the stint. And Kammerer, I think, is slowly falling backwards into Sholobanov's clutches as he manages to find a very nice set, which is nice on the tyres through the mid to late part of the soft tyre stint, of the medium tyre stint, sorry.
Yeah. By the way, Florian Kammer is now 10 seconds behind Jacob Reed, so that is the lead that Reed has. That's pretty comfortable at this point in the race, especially considering almost everyone else in his immediate vicinity still needs to make a pit stop as well. He is feeling fine out in front. Across the line go Florian Kammer and Alexei Sholobanov, separated by much less time, only about half a second between the two of those. Pretty much half a second exactly, according to my live timing. Plus minus 5 thousandths of a second, which doesn't make much difference. And still the battle between Burke, Nielsen and Lux going on behind, and Connor Pooler there has got past Jason Green on the road, and that is technically for position, not necessarily when it comes to the strategic part of this race, but still an important one, and nice to see he made it cleanly.
Well, that was a must-make move actually there from Connor Pooler. As look at that drive, trying to get the move done, and it's not quite there for Walter Lutz at the moment. He's got the toughest cookie in the box to try and make crumble. It is, of course, Ken Nielsen. He always gets his elbows out. He always fights for every position like it's tooth and nail and like it's the end of the world. There's the move over to the left-hand side. Straight down the inside goes Walter Lutz, and the Austrian gets the move done. Can he secure it here as he wiggles through there at Ascari? And just like that, the move is done. But I do want to go back to Connor Pooler's pass, because he needed to make that move. He desperately needs to attack on his set of hard compound tyres, because he's trying to build the margin between himself and Jacob Reed and cut that tree down. He needs about 6 seconds over this stint to go through. There's the move we're going to see here on the SimSpeed replay. Of course, we've got live pictures down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and that's how quickly the move was able to be made. Straight down the inside there, that one goes through. As we say that, Thomas Hinz gets his pass on Kent Nielsen on those very worn softs.
Yep, very good. Thomas Hinz through into 7th. See, the problem that Connor Pooler has is that even though he has fresher tyres than Reed, and should theoretically be faster at this point in the race, he did have quite a large gap to build up in the first place, and also he's having to do it while passing traffic for actual position. If Jacob Reed approaches anyone, chances are they're not going to fight him much, because they're going to be a lap down, and there is no one a lap down yet, so it's going to be a little while before he catches anyone. And oh dear, bit of a twitch there. Was that Paulo Reagan?
Alexei Lobanov there in 3rd position, getting it all wrong on the power, and then just like that, finding his race pretty much over and done with out there at that point. So that pretty much says what you need to know. George van Rensburg has just had an off out there at this moment, and he won't be best pleased because he's got no front ring on his car at this point in time. So there's a little look at Aslan Sert going around. So Osman Aslan Sert having his own moment, but George van Rensburg does not have a front wing on his car, and that will be because he and Edward Apariari have come together at the Rettifilo.
That's such a shame. Those two drivers had such a good start to the race. Remembering them fighting in the kind of 4th and 5th positions right in the early stages. We're going to see what happened. So Apariari is the one going for the move here up the inside. He overshoots it. Oh, he's clearly gone over the very light contact to cause that sort of incident. That may have been a bit of netcode there. But yeah, he may have gone over the sausage curbs on the inside. It kind of looked to me as if he still had a wheel within the white lines. I think that was all fair. And I think just unlucky for George van Rensburg.
Well, the issue you got there is that Edward Pariari makes himself a passenger when he goes over the anti-cut curb. He actually goes in the air. He can't turn it any more than he can. And as such, George van Rensburg, with his front wing damage, has to come in. It's a 10-second pit stop for him. It turns him onto a 2-stop. He comes back out on the set of the soft compound tyres, knowing that his race all but done, as he's nearly a lap down now here in comparison to Jacob Reed. The only car behind him that's still running is Ray Lombardi here, ironically, in Lombardia, as in comes Ray Lombardi to make a pit stop.
Okay, so we have had a lapped car, and here's a replay from above, actually. So this will tell us whether Apariari kept his wheels within the line It's very tight. It's very, very tight, and I don't think that kind of contact should have caused that much damage. So I think that whatever the case is, however you look at it, Van Rensburg is just unlucky in that. What's happened?
Oh, it's a big one. Osman Aslan Sert's had a massive accident. Nick Burke's come into the pit, but he's gone upside down and lost 2 tyres as Osman Aslan Sert, which puts him out of the race. We'll see it here at Ascari. It's all on his own. And you can see he goes through the first part, attacks through the second, and the car just snaps on him. It's a hefty crash.
Very, very similar to what Anthony Catt did on the first lap, obviously with slightly more devastating consequences. In the end, quite a gentle flip. That was just, he dug over on the sand. It wasn't the barrier itself that flipped him over, although it was quite a big impact before that flip. Doesn't really matter. It's not like it matters how big your accident was. If it takes you out of the race, then you're going no further. So 16 cars remaining in the race now, and that's the end of, I think it's the first time we've seen Osman Aslan Sert so far this season. And it's over after just 23 laps.
Well, Monza does have the flair of bringing drivers out of the wheel arches. Marcel Ropak is another driver who's here for his first time in this one. We've got one driver jumping into the pits. That's Kent Nielsen finally getting off the soft. He's gone 23 laps, 22 laps full on his set of soft compound tyres. Surely this might be a set of mediums here for Kent to get himself over to the end. He will exit on a set of medium tyres, and now he will look to try and be uber aggressive between now and the end. Look how twitchy Alexei Sholobanov is at the moment. He is fighting the car right now in P3.
Yeah, he's been twitchy for a good few laps now, actually, and dropping back from Florian Kammerer as a result of that. He's dropped out to over a second, so no longer has that DRS. And that could create a bit of a vicious cycle where he's pushing longer, thinking, oh no, I'm dropping back. Or pushing harder, rather. And as a result, and actually, yeah, if you watch the steering wheel here, you'll see how much he is pushing. There he goes, all over the place, soaring at the wheel on both of the apexes. And it's interesting because he didn't really seem to be oversteering or understeering too much through there. It's just that he doesn't have the confidence in the car right now. He's making all of these little micro corrections, and that's costing him, several tenths of a second per lap. And into the pits come Kammerer and Sholobanov.
Yep, so they're both going to dive in, which will leave Emil Bernstorff out there to attain second position for the time being. But these two diving in. Now, this is going to be a battle of pit crews between those two. Up on the jacks, looking to get tyres up and off and away. 4.2, 4.7 there for Alexei Sholobanov. Both jumping onto the hard compound of tyre. So they'll look at where they come back out. Look at who's going by them right now. Conor Pooler long gone, Jason Green there, and that's Edward Apariari, who's now just putting himself into the podium battle right now.
Yeah, well, they were already in the podium battle. You got to remember that they were right there before the pit stops happened, and I think actually the big winners in this one are the likes of. Sorry, my screen's a bit too small to see names right now, but Conor Pooler's done well. I think he should still be in with a good shout of P2 when this is all said and done. There he is. He's got to get past Adam Webb on the road, though. Webb yet to pit, if I'm not very much mistaken.
Yep, so he's there on the soft tyres, the 25-lap soft compound tyres, which he's got at the moment, and Kammerer flies by Jason Green, who's yet to pit, and gets that pass done without any problems. Pooler trying to think about, do I want to make it here at the curve at Alboreto? No, I'm going to wait and make this long run to the Rettifilo to make that happen. But into the pits comes Adam Webb. He doesn't want to hold up. Also into the pits goes Thomas Hinds off of his medium tyres, which pretty much means one medium driver left to make a stop in this race is Emil Bernstorff. It depends on how long he wants to go, and he might even try and extend this out to about lap 38 if he wants to be uber optimal on the soft tyres to the end. On the brakes, down in towards the Rettifilo at turn one. The look down the inside, Alexei Sholobanov is through on Edward Apariari, and that's a key move for the Kazakh.
That is, because it's not just a move for position on the road, it's also a move for position in general in the net order. So look for Alexei Shalobinov now. I did think he lost a little bit of time in that pit window compared to some of his rivals. He was ahead of Apariari before Apariari pitted in the first place, unless I'm very much mistaken. So he has now had to make that move for a second time. I think Nick Burke lost a good deal of time in all of this as well. He's further back than where he would have been. And I think pitting earlier has really helped the drivers who did it. But I am saying that with the bias of being earlier in the race. Later on, who knows what could happen.
Well, who knows, but this is a driver out in front, 19 seconds the gap over a former GP2 driver in Emil Bernstorff. Right now, Jacob Reed having a wonderful showcase of driving, and the question will be if he can convert this dominant position into an 8th straight victory as we look back at Alexei Shalobinov now trying to get the pass done on Jason Green here in towards the Rettifilo. You can see the rain light flashing, indicating that the battery is being harvested and the move being made without too much difficulty. The question I ask you, Caitlin, is Jacob Reed will be 3 races clear if he picks up this victory. At that point, would you say his championship is nigh on unstoppable?
I mean, without meaning to sound pessimistic, I kind of think it's already over, to be honest. I think if Jacob Reed keeps turning up to these races, which he seems to be intending to do, always good to see, then there's not really much that anyone else can do to stop him at this point in time. Even if he has a couple of bad races, a retirement or two, I still think he's built up enough points that he can actually be rather steady to the end of the championship here. But we know that that is not the way that Jacob Reed goes. He likes to win races, that's why he's won 7 in a row. And he clearly has a lot of confidence in himself as well. The fact that he started on hard tyres from the very front of the grid. I mean, his strategy could have been really spoiled if he'd been passed by some of his opponents on medium tyres, say, and drop back into the pack. He could have really lost a lot of time doing that. But he was like, no, I can hold the lead doing this, and he did. And if he does end up winning this race, he could even go Grand Slam. He could even go leading every lap, you know? So Jacob Reed, I think, has already got the championship. He's just in it for the records now.
Well, he's hoping for a lot. Here comes the move from Edward Apariari. Jason Green, nothing he can do, and Edward finds his pass, and that puts him up into P7 right now in this race, with a couple of drivers yet to pit in front. Walter Lux and Emil Bernstorff will both have to visit the lane, as well as Jacob Reed. And there is Connor Pooler. Now, compare him to Florian Kammerer. Look at the difference there. It's pretty much light and day at the moment from Florian Kammerer, who's running about 0.8 of a second quicker by just sheer virtue of pitting later and having that ability to attack the pressure tyres more.
Yeah, and I think that he's taking every inch out of that strategy right now. You've got Florian Kammerer here, who just set the fastest lap of the race, actually, 2 laps ago. So that would bring an extra point with it if he was to finish this way. He's catching up to Connor Pooler. Not quick enough at this point in time. He'd probably be close to him towards the end of the race, but we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Well, we're just getting word here that Jacob Reed is just setting faster and faster laps. It's a 1:25 flat for him on his last run. Now, we were hearing word, of course, from some of the drivers that the tyre can basically last the entire race. And if he's got that working in a very nice operating window, which by the looks of things he is, then he is going to be on absolutely wonderful form. And I do have to go back to what Jacob Reed said back at Long Beach. It was the round where he finished behind by a lap. He had a few taps with the barriers, Caitlin. And the one thing he said was, well, it wasn't really a good idea of me when I struggled last year to use exactly the same setup as last year. I need to go away and make some tweaks and come back. And since that statement, it's been the summer of Jacob Reed. He's been nigh on unstoppable.
Yeah, I think he's really reconsidered how he's gone about this, rather than doing the same things every time and expecting a different result, which, as we know, is not the way to go about it. He has come at it with, I mean, from what you just said there, probably a different strategy and a different setup, and he started to really have confidence in himself as there was a move, Paulo Regan versus Jason Green, and Emil Bergsdorf still in second position. But Jacob Reed now leads by 21 seconds, Jake.
Well, the key here is Jacob Reed to Conor Pooler, and that gap, which was at 31 seconds when Conor Pooler came out of the pits, is now at 33 seconds at this moment in time. So that 6-second gap he had to try and chase down is now up to 8 seconds, you'd feel, at the moment in this race. And we're talking about 27 seconds to transit through the lane. And look at what Florian Camayo is doing. He is taking nearly a second a lap out of the Brit at this moment, and Conor Pooler will just see the looming threat behind just in his mirrors, and it must be one of the worst sights, Caitlin, to have as a driver, to be absolutely powerless to someone chasing you down.
Yeah, and I take back my statement about Florian Camayo not being able to catch Conor Pooler at this rate, because he stepped up his game even on that last lap. It wasn't his fastest lap of the race, but compared to Conor Pooler, I mean, he took 0.8 of a second out of him, compared to 5 or 6 tenths on the previous lap. So Florian Camayo is still pushing. He set the fastest middle sector of anyone on this lap. This could be another fastest lap of the race, you know, if he continues at this rate. And apparently just in the last sector, according to Jay, he gained 7 tenths over Conor Pooler. He could be a second quicker on this lap. Out of the final corner he comes. I feel like we're watching a qualifying session now, as he crosses the line, and it's
9 tenths.
Yeah, wow.
Conor Pooler is being reeled in on the line. There is not much more to say. In comes Jason Green, the first the hard tyre runners then to make a stop. Now this will be an indicator of where drivers come in, as there's a little look towards the inside. Kent Nielsen versus Thomas Hinds out there, the fastest baker in Australia, Thomas Hinds against Kent Nielsen. Right now it's a long stop here for Jason Green, and I wonder, yeah, he's been caught speeding here on the lane as Jason Green. He'll be there for 40 seconds more.
That's a shame. Jason Green dropping to the back. He was one of the last drivers to, well, he started on the hard tyres, so of course was going to be one of the last drivers to pit. Some drivers yet to pit, including Jacob Reed, who has yet again set another personal best. Not that last time around, but the time before. So despite being on those old hard tyres, he is still finding grip, finding as much pace as he had. And I think pace is the key word here, because he's really been pacing himself, not going too quickly, not making mistakes, not going slowly enough to drop back at the start. And he's just been gradually eking out that gap to Emil Bergsdorf. And here is a fight between Paulo Regan and Nick Burke. This will be over 8th place.
It will, and Paulo Regan here is going to be looking at what he can do to defend, but Nick Burke, who has been really, really strong in the way that he has driven when he has driven over the course of this season, up to 7th in the championship, hasn't finished outside of the points in a race that he has started this season. And another move being constructed as we take a look back at Thomas Hinds and Kent Nielsen, and that's Kent Nielsen losing the spot now to Hindsey, who will move himself up now into 10th position in this race, which is one SimSpeed Championship point in his back pocket. Conor Pooler, look at that gap now, is under 2 seconds here, and the threat looms even larger. Give it a couple laps, and I tell you what, Florian Camayo might be driving to a career best 2nd place finish. His best so far this season was a 3rd at Silverstone, and right now he could be on for a 2nd place finish today.
Well, he's got to get 4th first, but Conor Pooler is definitely getting rather larger in his vision. You can see the gaps being taken down. You know, it's tenths of a second per sector, and yeah, 2nd per lap that last time around. Let's see what this lap is. Across the line, only 5 tenths taken out. I say only as if that's something to be ashamed of, but not quite the domination we've seen from him over the last few laps. And yes, he does make a little mistake there.
And that is going to be big, because that's a slowdown penalty here for Conor Pooler, and he's got to be very choice about the way he serves this here, and he'll need Tobias Saar's help. How do I serve this penalty and keep behind Florian Camayo? That's going to be in the back of his mind as he dives through the rights and the lefts then out there on track of the Della Roggia, and still he needs to serve, and he can't take forever to serve this, otherwise they'll give him a black flag. Through the first Lesmo, he still tries to serve, still got penalty to serve. This is pretty much as easy as you like for Florian Kamai. He'll have DRS through to Saraglio, he'll have to go around the outside corner. Puller's gonna have to give it, he's got a black flag penalty, he took too long, and now he's got to go down the lane.
Ah, that's such a shame for Conor Puller there, but you got to ask why he didn't just serve it. I mean, it's difficult because when you're fighting with someone, you don't want to give it up. You're like, no, I deserve this position. And apparently, well, according to Jay, we're about to see Jacob Reed make a mistake here. That's a novelty. There he goes over the chicane. I guess even the best drivers in the world are still human at the end of the day, and carries on his way. But yeah, Conor Puller in that one, I think, has rather taken the splinter out of his finger or replaced it with a plank.
Yeah, that's a hefty one for Conor Puller. He'll now have 4 laps to serve his drive-through penalty, or actually it would be a stop and hold actually for that sort of penalty, I would have thought. So he's got a long way to go, and he's got to find the right place to serve that and get back into this race, and hopefully still have a chance of racing for the top 10 out in this one. Nick Burke and Paul O'Regan continuing on their charges at the moment. The 7 and 8 cars in 8th and 9th positions at the moment. Nick Burke just about pulling away from Paul O'Regan, 1/10 difference over that last lap. So O'Regan hoping he can find his way through, but not often that you see mistakes out of Jacob Reed either. That might just be a lapse in concentration, which is so easily done.
That reminds me of when Sebastian Vettel was on his way to win here in 2008, and he had a little run over the escape road at Del Roger, I think it was. Of course, still ended up winning that Grand Prix, but quite convincingly too. I think Jacob Reed still has the advantage here by about 22 seconds. As into the pits from 3rd position comes Walter Lux, so a driver who we'd expect to be up in the top 3 will probably drop down a bit further, but what will he do tyre-wise? And Conor Puller's in to serve his penalty.
Yeah, Conor Puller with the penalty, but Walter Lux unable to go longer than Emil Bernstorff. Soft tyres for Walter Lux, so he's going to have to take him a long way here in the end of this stint, but he'll have a lighter fuel tank, so he'll have to worry a little bit less about it. That will probably perk the ears up here of Emil Bernstorff if he wants to get out ahead at this point. Now watch the timer tick for Conor Puller here as he has his penalty to serve, over 15 seconds, and it will continue as Ken Nielsen goes through. 18 seconds, the stop time in the pits there for Conor Puller. A slam dunk if ever you saw one. He's now down in 12th position in this race, and he has got to have to hope for points right now, knowing how important it is for him to not make those sorts of errors out there at the moment. Lux has come out in 10th place, and immediately will have Kent Nielsen to try and dance his way around with at this point. Thomas Hinds as well just in front of that. To the left, no, to the right, he'll stay left. Will Walter Lux and get that one straight up the inside. No arguments about it. Next up, chase down Hinsey.
Indeed, Thomas Hinds just up the road there. You can see the purple streak going through. And there is Paul O'Regan, Nick Burke and Eduardo Apari-Ari, who just disappeared out of the frame. Jacob Reed still leads this race by 23 seconds over Emil Bernstorff. Those two are yet to pit. Florian Kamai is 3rd position. Across the start-finish line they go yet again. It was another personal best lap that last time around, Jacob Reed. So 1 lap after his mistake, he's gathered it all up and got the car going on song again.
I think he'll just wait for Emil Bernstorff to make his stop, and then he will have free rein to make his pit stop, get on a set of soft tyres and go out there and attack. Edward Apari-Ari here, 5th position he finds himself in at the moment, and he will be certainly happy with the way that he is driving outright.
Reed pits. Reed is in from the lead, so this is it then. He's left it out until lap 35. Could have left it out longer, but I think this is when he feels comfortable stopping. We'll see what Emil Bernstorff does now. He's done the whole race on medium tyres up until this point. Jacob Reed will presumably go on to soft tyres. There he goes. He's on the softs now, the red ringed rubber. And escapes the pit lane. Bernstorff stays out. Bernstorff will take the lead. So, providing Bernstorff leads this lap, it won't be a lights to flag victory for Jacob Reed officially, despite the dominance that he's shown so far today. And Jason Green there takes the fastest lap of the race as he now chases down. Well, he's a lap down actually, but he is in the background there in that fight.
Now, he won't take a SimSpeed Championship point. You've got to get inside the top 10 to make that happen. But for Emil Bernstorff right now, who leads this field, he's got a lot to think about here right now on how he goes through. Walter Lux now setting the fastest lap of the race. So clearly there's pace on the soft tyres, and that's something to keep in mind at the end of this race, how aggressive you can be. Emil Bernstorff will look behind, and Jacob Reed, this is the only trouble he will have to deal with this race, the only overtake in theory he's had to make this race, and he closes right up to the back here at Ascari, and will now look through the right, left, for the left, right, and left, and now on the back stretch. Will he have enough? He looks left, he looks right. He does eventually make that move down to the inside, that final corner of Curva Alboreto, and he will still hold on to that race lead, and the Grand Slam still very much on as Emil Bernstorff stays out for a 36th lap on his medium compound tyres, a 37th lap, he starts.
Yeah, of course, Jacob Reed retakes the lead of the race and before the start-finish line, so officially, if he wins now, he will have led every lap of the race. We're going to rewind the footage and take a look at something. Are we in real time here? I think we're in real time. Walter Lux. That's okay. But yeah, Jacob Reed back to the lead of the race. Emil Bernstorff had absolutely nothing to say about that. He's just driving his own race, waiting for his own pit stop. And here's a move. And this is Walter Lux on Paul O'Regan, is it?
Yeah. Straight through, down the inside, no arguments about it. Paul O'Regan's in a different race to Walter Lux. Lux is going for second place overall, but he's got about 14 seconds that he's got to chase down if he wants to make that happen. I would say that he would probably be ahead of Emil Bernstorff at this moment, but he's got to run this very tough gauntlet with Edward Apariari and Nick Burke and Alexei Shalobanov and Florian Kamar. Those are the drivers that he's got to get by late on in this race. But look how immediately he jumps on the back of Edward Apariari and hopes to try and make that move to dive through to the inside. But Edward's got a bit of straight line speed and he's able to go through. Jacob Reed just decides, you know what, let's not have a competition for this fastest lap point. 122.8. Absolutely monstrous. He is simply put in another class.
Yeah, as we've just had pointed out to us, that's about 1.5 seconds faster than anyone else has gone. As Walter Lux goes for a move on Edward Apariari and gets through on the straight up into 6th position.
Look at the straight line.
Yeah, and Apariari is coming back to him here actually with the distant toe from Nick Burke up in front, but Lux does maintain the position. I think his strategy's possibly worked out a bit better than Apariari here. Remember in the early stages, Apariari was running ahead of Lux. So I think this has worked a bit better for Walter, and he can push on a little bit further on those soft tyres late in the race.
Surely if you're Emil Bernstorff, you've got to come in on this lap. You are now starting to hemorrhage that time on the medium tyre, and this is going to be a question of, do you dive in now? Because look at the time you're losing, 0.7 to a second there or thereabouts on the driver in front of you, and that is just sector by sector that you're losing. 25.3 compared to a 22.8. Surely you've got to dive in. You're seeing all of that there, and in he comes, the final pitter of all these drivers, and Reed just puts a 22.1 down. He's only improved it by 0.7 of a second out there just to send a message.
Jacob Reed's lap is over 2 seconds faster than anyone else has gone at any point in this race, just to underline the dominance that he has over anyone else in the field today. Bernstorff will drop off the podium, so Kamar goes second, Shalobanov third. We're on board with Nick Burke as he fights with Walter Lux. Lux will go through here on the right-hand side. There are cars coming out of the pit lane. Yep, Emil Bernstorff comes out just ahead of them. There is Walter Lux. So Bernstorff comes out 4th, Lux is 5th, Burke is 6th, The driver with the final spot on the podium is Alexei Sholobanov. Can he hold that from Emil Bernstorff? That'll be a tough ask in the later stages of this race. But what drama here between Kama, Sholobanov and Bernstorff, and what a lack of drama from Jacob Reed, who can just put down those scintillating laps as if it's absolutely nothing to him.
But I wouldn't count Walter Lux off of this podium just yet. You're talking about these drivers. They've got 14 seconds to chase down in 14 laps if they want to finish second and third in this race. So Bernstorff and Lux have to work together here to close up the gap, and look at that gap between Lux and Sholobanov. That's the key that we're seeing. It is roughly about a second a lap that we're seeing. It's in line with what they need to do in order to move up those places, so keep an eye out on it. Of course, the fresher tyres are there for Emil Bernstorff, but Walter Lux has them already up at the operating window to go out there and attack, and these drivers are going to follow in lockstep between now, you'd feel, and the end of this race.
Yeah. Oh, we've got an overtake potentially on here. Paul O'Regan on the back of Eduardo Pariari takes a look to the inside, has to back out a bit into the Retifilia, which will actually be slightly windier this year than it has been in previous years. That is in the real world of racing, as that has not been updated in iRacing just yet. I don't know who looked at that corner and decided it needs to be even slower and tighter, but there you go. And there is Emil Bernstorff, 4th position, soft tyres. We'll see what he can do on those. Probably not take the fastest lap, but he can get a bit closer to it than some of the other drivers have been up to this point in the race. There is Alexei Sholobanov. The gap between the two of them is just under 4 seconds. I think at this rate Bernstorff should catch him.
Yep, so Emil Bernstorff is a rocket ship. He is going quicker than Jacob Reed is at the moment. You can see the clock ticking down. He's just ticked under 30 seconds at this moment in time. So he's certainly got a lot that he has on his plate as he wants to try and go forward and do exactly what he needs to right now. Paul O'Regan on the back of Edward Apari, looking at 7th position as a wonderful boon for the way that he's been racing. Don't count out Ken Nielsen and Adam Webb. Both of those drivers sit at about 7 seconds back on their mediums and could make something happen. Look at a difference in top speed as they now hit the brakes. Edward Apari commands the inside line, but watch out for Paul O'Regan. Still has to take that inside line in a bit of avoidance. Then Thomas Hinds jumps on the scene.
Thomas Hinds, we're on board with him now, with the camera mounted up on the airbox, heading up towards the Del Roggia chicane. This is sometimes an overtaking opportunity, but it's quite a quick chicane, so not always. There's not a big braking zone into there. You've got the two Lesmu bends that go right and then right again. A slightly wider, slightly banked turn, followed by a quick flick, which is always narrower than you expect, but you always find the gravel in on the exit. Here is Alexei Sholobanov attempting to escape Emil Bernstorff. The gap down to a second. It's come down 2 seconds in the last lap alone, maybe even 3 seconds. Oh. Look at that, 2.4 last time around. And he's within DRS range now, so I think that this should be relatively fast here for Emil Bernstorff.
Well, he'll have the DRS. Well, he won't get the DRS because he was too far back. That just shows you how quickly he's chasing this one down. So Alexei Sholobanov will be safe for at least 1 or 2 corners. As you can see, the difference maker on the brakes. It's like watching 2 different manufacturers go at it there. One at the front of the field, one at the back. The difference is stark. And he'll look a little bit further back. Another little hope of a move is still not going to be there. But watch through the Biasino. Absolutely marauding forward. Emil Bernstorff puts himself on the podium.
Yeah, he's got 6.9 seconds to gain to Florian Kamai now. We'll have to keep an eye out on the lap times, but his last lap was 1.6 seconds faster. So yeah, he can still do that as well. Emil Bernstorff could still be on for 2nd position, and Walter Lux is now 4 seconds behind Sholobanov himself, gaining at a similar pace. So I think Sholobanov could, or probably will, drop back another position before this race is done as well.
Yeah, so there's definitely that in the mind, and I think it's less of a case of will I be fighting for second for Florian Kammerer, but more maybe will I be fighting for third, because Lux can't hold Bernstorff's pace. Again, out of Ascari, Paul O'Regan shadows Edward Apari-Ari in this one going on. Ray Lombardi jumps into the pits, who's had himself a little bit of a tough time of things out there in 16th position, but now you get a real sense of what these drivers are hoping for in this race. Can I get that extra one position when they tick over here? They've got 11 laps, and oh, Paul, straight to the inside. Oh, he sold it beautifully there. He's been outside for the last 3 or 4 laps. The one time he goes to the inside, there's no defence from Edward Apari-Ari. He was middle of the road. He was spaced out. He was in a dreamland.
And kicked up the grass as he did it. He didn't even need to do that. He had the space to stay on the road. Almost did it for fun in all of that. Here comes Thomas Hinz. Ooh, looks to the inside, decides better of it, probably for the best. That's a difficult place to overtake at the best of times, let alone at the last minute. Just ask Damon Hill. And now he's going to have to sit behind him all the way through the Lesmo curves as well. There is another DRS zone coming up immediately after the second Lesmo. You can see the boards there, and as he crosses the line, the gaping gap appears. He's up in 8th gear as they go under the old banking and into the Variante Ascari, and still sits behind Eduardo Apari-Ari.
Sits behind and hopes that a move will be concocted, and it will certainly be a lot easier if Apari-Ari falls outside of a 1 second window from Paul O'Regan, and it's teetering on the edge there with the number 7 car in front. So now you look around at Edward Apari-Ari, at Thomas Hinz. Can Hinzy find a way forward and gain an extra place here? Look at the difference in a straight line. It is there for you to see. Thomas Hinz straight down the inside and confirms the pass as he goes through. Absolutely flying. We're expecting skinny wings here. 338 kilometers an hour in a straight line for Thomas Hinz.
Amazing stuff there. Thomas Hinz is in 8th position, and well, here is, and look at the time that Emil Bernstorff is chipping away from Florian Kammerer here. 1.5, 1.6, 1.4, so about 1.5 every lap, and there's no way that Kammerer can hold him off at this rate. He'll be on him in 2 laps time, and we'll still have a few laps to go in this race. We're on lap 45 of 53 here, so he'll still have to fend him off for another 4 laps, 6 laps, but basically. I exaggerated it slightly considering we're at the end of this particular lap, but still a lot of time to go.
Yeah. So on the bottom of your screen, you got Volta Lux, who is looking to try and find the way through on Alexei Shalobanov. On top, you got Florian Kammerer in the number 14 machine trying to hold on to second place, with Emil Bernstorff just starting to shadow and try and crack that gap. But for Volta Lux, this is a vital move, because he knows that if he can't make this pass, he's got no hopes of getting onto the podium. But I think he's taken a lot of tyre life out of his tyres early, to the point where I'm not sure that Florian Kammerer is even a goal for him anymore. I think Shalobanov's the best he can get.
Yeah, potentially so. Florian Kammerer should be okay for a podium here, providing he doesn't lose too much time fighting with Bernstorff, and providing there isn't any contact or anything like that. And Alexei Shalobanov can do him a real favour here if he holds off Walter Lux. Lux is usually on the podium in this series. He's had a lot of 2nd and 3rd places. Here he is through the Variante Ascari. I think his most common position is 4th, actually, just from memory, just from the feels of it. But he has been up there. Reed, Gronkowski and Lux have been 1, 2, 3 in the championship for pretty much all of it, after unfortunately Jorge Martinez and Darren Parker stopped turning up regularly. And here comes the move now, I'm sure of it. He's got the DRS open, he'll go to the right hand side, and he'll be through before the braking zone, which always makes the move cleaner and easier. And Walter Lux is now into 4th position, and the fact he was able to pull that quickly means it's not out of the question that he can catch up to the likes of Bernstorff and Kammer here.
Well, he'll need a second and a half a lap on Florian Kammer if he wants that podium, because Emil Bernstorff has now latched onto the back of the hard compound runner, the best of those on the alternate strategy to go onto a quicker tyre early, build the gap and hold on with the harder tyre towards the end of this race. Bernstorff, DRS through the Seraglio, underneath the bank. Watch out for that bump that is down there around that section of track. It's so easy to lose a little bit of downforce through there with the way that the ground effect works on these cars. He gets a lovely run out of Ascari now, and Florian Kammer with that skinny wing. You can see how skinny it is as it pretty much sits down, trying to create as little drag coefficient as possible. Now it's going to need to go and work into overtime, but Florian Kammer is already there. You can see Emil Bernstorff has got his tyres set, locked, loaded, and now on this straight, look at the difference there. It's a case of full battery to defend from Florian Kammer, but the DRS just did its job. Emil Bernstorff on a medium soft strat is now P2.
Fantastic stuff. I'm pretty proud actually to be commentating on Emil Bernstorff driving such a great race. He dropped back at the start, didn't he? He didn't have the best start of the race that he potentially could have done, and you've got to wonder what he could have done with his race otherwise. I think he'll be regretting starting on the medium compound tyre. It didn't really work for him. It was a bit of a cop-out rather than going aggressive on the softs or the hards, and I think it cost him a little bit, but it won't really matter too much at the end, as Reed, of course, is pretty dominant in this championship. You need to have an absolutely perfect race to even get close to him, and Bernstorff has beaten everyone else that matters in this race. So Emil Bernstorff up into second position. The first two seeds, actually, in terms of iRating, are first and second. Florian Kammer a bit of an outlier, 14th seed in third position, doing a great job there. And, of course, the third seed, Jordan Gronkowski, retired from the race earlier on. Here is Walter Lux, P4, number 4, chasing down Florian Kammer for that final spot on the podium.
Well, he's going to need a little bit of help, you feel, to try and close that gap. His time over the line, which he just crosses, is a 1:24.6. Yeah. Kammer on his hard tyres has done a 1:24.8, so just 0.2 of a second. You can try and divvy that up as many ways as you want. Quite frankly, it remains 0.2 of a second. Not going to eat into 9 seconds worth of gap in any sort of time here today to chase down for that podium, so long as Kammer can keep it on the island. And look at what he's able to do. Has Emil Bernstorff used all of his life out of his tyres to get to Kammer and make that pass, and not leave himself enough tyre life late here, Caitlin, to break away and make this race work? Kammer has still got second on the horizon.
Yeah, Kammer, I think, has picked up his pace. A few laps ago, I didn't think he was in the 1:24s. He's in the he set a 1:24.8 on that last lap, and he is really keeping up with Emil Bernstorff in this lap, you're right. Sometimes if you're chasing someone for so long, you sort of forget what it's like to drive on your own. So when you get out in front and you have to pick your own braking points again, you're like, well, what do I do? If the car probably feels completely different to last time he had clean air in front of him as well. But, you know, that's the thing that these drivers have to adapt to. 5 laps to go as they cross the line this time around. Florian Kammer, DRS open. And there is Thomas Hinz versus Eduardo Pari-Ari over 8th and 9th positions.
Yeah, so Edward Apari-Ari looking for an extra one here to be -1 on his day. Started 7th position on the grid. Nick Burke, your biggest mover in the field today. He's up 10 spots, 16 into P6 with an underrated drive by his talent and standards, running through the opening chicane. Then they go the Rettifilo, heading now for the Biasino curve here, which is long, sweeping, flat right-hander, and then heading over to the Della Roggia chicane, which is turns 4 and 5. Out on circuit, looking for any sort of weakness, any sort of opportunity, and this is the sort of circuit you look at and pretty much It's one of the biggest known factors in the racing world. Everybody knows how to drive at Monza because it's been around forever, and almost every video game in the world has had a version of it. Look at Kammeyer and how close he is now to the back of Emil Bernstorff.
Yeah, they'd have all driven Monza plenty of times over the years. Florian Kammeyer still just 0.6 of a second behind Emil Bernstorff, 4 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line this time. And Bernstorff is not looking as comfortable as he would have done otherwise. These soft tyres were expected to last around 15 laps, but that's how long their optimal performance lasts. They can drive them basically into the ground until they absolutely feel like they can't stay on those tyres any longer. But of course it will start to swing back the way of Florian Kammeyer if they run long enough, because with harder tyres comes better tyre durability. So Kammeyer just needs to sit there and see if there will be an opportunity later on in the race. The last lap times were about the same between the two of them.
Yeah, you can see the draft in front from Jason Green, I think, is going to be a teller in terms of this race, because Florian Kammeyer needs a little bit of help to try and get himself through, and Emil Bernstorff needs that help of the car in front to just try and pull away by a couple tenths. It's that DRS which keeps right now Florian Kammeyer pinned and locked in the slipstream. I'm sure that there is going to be a lot of words of encouragement out there from Christoph Klinkmann, who is going to be almost yelling and screaming in Florian Kammeyer's ear that he can do it, that he can find this second place against a driver of the quality like Emil Bernstorff. We're down to 3 laps to go here at Monza, and this is the race that we've got on top of your screen for what is the final 2 spots on the podium. Meanwhile, further down in the pack, Thomas Hinz and Edward Apari-Ari. It's Hinz who finds himself in front at the moment as he tries to defend.
We follow Jason Green straight off the road down the start-finish straight there, right over the white line. I guess that is sometimes the best way down the straight if you're slipstreaming someone, but you've got to be careful about that. You don't want to pick up too many points. Here is Thomas Hinz in the chicane. Didn't pass Apari-Ari that long ago, but Apari-Ari keeping up well, just as Kammeyer is with Bernstorff. And I'll keep an eye on both of those races to make sure that there isn't a change that we're not going to see on camera.
Florian Kammeyer is very close to dropping 1 second. He's at about 9/10 of a second right now, as that gap just looks like it's cracked up a bit too much for Edward Apari-Ari at the moment, also at 9/10. So Florian Kammeyer needs a little bit more out there if he wants to find that move, dump the battery, find a way to attack, and really give Emil Bernstorff something to think about late on in this race. He pulls that gap back in ever so slightly, 24-2 over that last lap. So Bernstorff is really ratcheting up his pace. Kammeyer is doing everything he can just to match.
Yeah, and it looks as if Kammeyer is actually picking up his pace still. Florian Kammeyer just set a personal best lap of the race that last time around. So Kammeyer, it's not that Bernstorff lost pace when he passed Kammeyer, it's that Kammeyer really picked it up. Some of that will be due to DRS and slipstream, and some of it will be down to just pure grit and determination, because he knows that if he loses the back of Bernstorff, then he's going to be vulnerable, or he would have been vulnerable if he'd lost it straight away to Walter Lux behind. But he's really picked up his pace, and he's still in the low 124s.
Starting the final lap of this race is Jacob Reed. 53 laps of racing. He has led 52 of them so far. He has led every lap. He has got the fastest lap. He started on pole position. He is on course for a Grand Slam of epic proportions here right now at Monza. Simply unstoppable has been his way. Back at Bernstorff and Kammeyer, who are only just now entering the front stretch. Florian Kammeyer, that rubber band is expanding, and Emil Bernstorff is doing just enough to keep Florian Kammeyer at bay. He can throw as much as he can on the hard tyres. He would have had to hope for the soft tyres to just break up a little bit more here in the Italian afternoon, but with this track starting to get a little bit cooler out there, it is favouring those right now who find themselves in place. But what more needs to be said about a driver of Jacob Reed's quality? He is now just a handful of corners, if not one corner away right now from a 10th victory of his season, an 8th straight win, and with Jordan Gronkowski out of this race, one hand you feel at this stage on the title through the Curva Alboreto, and Jacob Reed at the Temple of Speed has just trounced everybody. A Grand Slam of absolutely amazing caliber from a driver like him. He earned that one today without any doubt about it. Back to second and third. Emil Bernstorff looks like he's got just enough of a gap as he runs through the Curva Alboreto. Nothing that Florian Kammeier can do about that. Bernstorff will take second when you argue he should have had that at Zandvoort were it not for his fuel. And Florian Kammeier gets his second podium of the season.
Absolutely amazing drive from Jacob Reed there. Here comes Walter Lux to finish fourth. But yeah, for Reed, it's not just a Grand Slam, it's the ultra-rare Grand Chelem, as they call it, meaning that he won, he took pole position, he took fastest lap, and he led every single lap of the race. Of course, there was a very brief period for about half a lap where Emil Bernstorff led, but because he didn't lead as he crossed the line, that does technically count as a Grand Chelem for Jacob Reed, and 8 victories in a row. His winning margin was 25.887 seconds. That's unbelievable in a single make championship, don't forget this is. And I said last time out that I thought this would be a textbook drive for Jacob Reed, and I thought this track would really suit him. And boy, hasn't it. But then again, we're at the stage in the season where he seems to be unstoppable literally wherever we go, Jake.
The summer of Jacob Reed refuses to break about, and of course it is autumn next time we're with you with racing at the Temple of Speed. It is him and him alone that trounces this one, 25 seconds clear of Emil Bernstorff by the end of the race. Florian Kammeier picking up his second podium of the season as he finishes off in third ahead of Walter Lux, the Austrian. He only just was able to beat Alexei Sholobanov, the Kazakh driver, to P4, with Sholobanov finishing in 5th, and Nick Burke, a gain of 10 places, the biggest mover in the field, moving up into 6th. Paul O'Regan continuing his run of consistent points finishes in 7th, has Thomas Hinds behind him for company in 8th, who was able to stave off the late charges of Edward Apare RE in 9th, and Kent Nielsen on a soft medium strategy, finding himself with 1 championship point there for the SimSpeed title in 10th. Adam Webb will be just the wrong side in 11th, finishing 2 seconds behind Kent Nielsen, with Connor Pooler getting caught out on a slowdown penalty here today. He would have been on course to race for that 2nd place overall today, and he will only manage P12 by comparison. The first of the lap down cars is Marcel Ropak, with Jason Green and George Van Rensburg also classified as a lap down. Ray Lombardi in Lombardia would not have the best races of them all. He would hit the 17-point instant limit here in iRacing official races, meaning that he had to take a drive-through penalty near the end of the race and as such be 3 laps down. And then you've hit the retirees. Osman Aslan Set with a big accident at Ascari. The same for Anthony Cat on the opening lap of the race. Jordan Gronkowski into the pits, catching the attenuator, trying to avoid contact with George Van Rensburg, pretty much putting his championship aspirations at life support at this moment in time, with Victor Awad out at the Della Roggia, on turn 4 of his race. A racing weekend, so to speak, here at Monza, which has pretty much said everything you need to know. It's a 2-week break before we're back, Caitlin, and we're at Motorland Aragon for the next round's worth of racing. A track which is surprisingly underrated for what it brings, and what it will bring is an almighty overtaking opportunity along the backstretch into the final corners of the circuit.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not a big fan of the circuit, but I am a big fan of the racing here in the iRacing Grand Prix Challenge. So I'm absolutely still going to be here. I'm going to go in with a positive mindset and try not to complain about how little I like watching and driving the circuit at Motorland Aragon.
Well, the only place you can catch that live with us is on SimSpeed TV. So if you haven't had the opportunity and you're here for the first time, like, share, subscribe, do all of the sharing that you can over social media to bring amazing sim racing over to you. From Caitlin Penny and myself, Jake Sperry, the Temple of Speed proves to be a very solemn place for championship aspirations. For Jordan Gronkowski, his run very much be in a critical situation. 3 race wins back with 8 races to go. It is nigh on unstoppable, the form that Jacob Reed is in. There's no ego. It's so elegant, and I think exasperated the rest of the field are. It's 8 straight. It's 10 straight wins for the Worcesterman, and it's Aragon in 2 weeks' time.